ఇంకొక 2 మినిట్స్ ఆగి స్టార్ట్ చేద్దామండి. 7:35కి 33 అయింది కదా!
Hi, Srinu.
Hello, Prasad. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. చాలా బాగుంది ప్రోగ్రామ్. నైస్ ప్రోగ్రామ్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. ఇంకా మొదలవ్వలేదు కదా.
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ శ్రీను అండ్ ప్రసాద్.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
మార్నింగ్ ఇంకా ఈ వీడియో ఆన్ చేయలేను, ఇంకా వెళ్ళే మార్నింగ్ మాకు ఇంకా.
Good to see.
Good to see.
So before losing much time, maybe I should go on mute. So looking forward to a good session.
Srinu, నీ హెల్త్ బాగుందా ఇప్పుడు?
Sorry?
శ్రీను, నీ హెల్త్ బాగుందా ఇప్పుడు?
పర్వాలేదు.
That's great. That's great.
Carry on, Srinu. I'll be in mute.
Okay. ఓకేనండి, మనం స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాము. 7:36 అయింది కదా. సో ఎవరైనా లేట్ గా జాయిన్ అవుతే దట్స్ ఫైన్. ఓకే, ఈరోజు మొదలు పెట్టే ముందర కొన్ని ముఖ్యమైన విషయాలు చెప్దాం అనుకుంటున్నాను. అంటే చాలా సందర్భాల్లో ఏంటంటే మనం ఎవరైనా ఏదైనా చెప్పినప్పుడు మన మైండ్ ఎలా వర్క్ అవుతుంది అనేది ఆలోచిస్తే చాలా సార్లు ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు చెప్పేదాన్ని మనం ఇంటర్ప్రిట్ చేసుకుని, సారీ, I need to tell in English, right? So let's switch to English. Basically, whenever we are listening to someone else, we always interpret their words, and then we say like, we already know this. We learned this, few years ago, a decade ago, something like that. And then we start thinking about that, and then we miss the essence of that particular conversation or that speech or whatever. So this is what happens many times. So I'm frankly saying, like, whatever I'm going to say today, you all know it. So you need not actually interpret and say like, I already know this, because every one of you know this, what I'm saying today. But only thing I'm doing is like, I'm just sorting them in one particular order, and then I'm trying to present so that, everyone can understand like what's happening with our, daily day-to-day life, why you are getting stressed or why you are getting angry for certain things. These things actually I'm going to discuss slowly. But prior to that, I request all of you to just listen. I mean, as if you don't know anything about what I'm saying. So if you know, it's very good. If you don't know, then you can learn. But always interpreting that way, we are actually losing, some of the words or some of the key points out of that particular talk. So here, actually, I'm not saying I know more than you know. As I said, like, whatever I'm presenting, you all know that. Only thing I just framed it in a certain order so that it's easy to interpret, easy to understand, and easy to implement if you like it. And then if you follow these techniques and if you, um, you know, get transformed, for example, then you need not tell like, I transformed and I achieved this and all that, because people will know around us. Actually, they know like, what you achieved. The surrounding people will know. So naturally they come and ask you like, what's happening? Like, earlier it used to be, used to be very angry or used to be very stressful. Now we don't see that anymore. So what did you do? And things like that might happen. But at the same time, we should remember, we should not, grow our ego. That is the important part. Like, if we think I'm great and I'm doing something, then we are losing that, whatever we learned. So I want to tell, most of the time today, I'm going to tell some story relevant to that particular topic rather than, simply telling words. Because, from my childhood, I learned one thing. Like when you tell something in terms of stories, it's really easy to remember those things. And whenever you come across that kind of situation, automatically those stories will pop up and they tell you like, this is what you need to do at this point. That is what actually I learned. I'm glad actually my grandma and my mother and many others actually used to tell stories when I was, in my elementary school and all that. So I really like telling stories even to my students and whoever comes across. I always tell relevant stories so that they remember that very well, rather than if I say give a statement. Many times, it's really hard to interpret. Even if we remember that for some time, we tend to forget it. But whereas if we learn a story, we can remember that for a long time. That is why if you see a movie, if you see 10 movies or 12 movies, the jokes are, the funny part or some things you remember very well for a long time. Whereas if it is something you are not interested in, naturally it will go away within an hour or maybe within a day, something like that. So that's why just, even if you know whatever I'm saying, just try to listen and just pretend as if you don't know that. So that way, you can absorb more. So now coming to, I want to tell a story here. Many times actually, we see people asking for help in society. Like, when someone is asking for help, that means they remembered you to ask the help. That means if you come into their mind, that means you are actually, a selected person for that, for doing that favor. That is one thing. And then the other part is like, if a person asks for help, and if you are seriously busy with something else, and if you cannot do it, that is acceptable. But many times actually we try not to, I personally, I felt that in my earlier days. So I know how it is. Like if someone asks for help, I used to say like, I'm busy with something and I can. And then, second time they ask, third time they ask. And then after that, they stop asking you because, anyway, they're not getting help. Moreover, it's a waste of time for them and for us as well. So they simply stop it. The same thing with, like nature. Nature provides you opportunities, like, trying to help in the community, trying to do something good. But many times actually we say like, we are busy with something and then we try to keep it aside. But if it is a genuine reason, of course, even nature knows that. But many times actually we say like, you're busy and we watch a movie or we do something which is actually, after some time, it's not worth at all. Maybe at that moment we might feel, oh, this is good, I'm enjoying at the moment. But after, maybe after 1 or 2 years, I think that's no help at all. So, but if you start helping out, then naturally many people can approach you for help. But of course, in current scenario, many people actually misusing that particular nature of a person. So sometimes, even though we are willing to help, but we are scared, like, we are actually feeding a wrong person, or wrong thing. But of course, this is all depending on the person's human nature. So now coming to the divine, or whatever the nature, if we do something, and then if you are doing it efficiently, like, when you do it, you should not tell 10 people, like, I did this, I did this, I did this. So that way, actually, it actually doesn't help you one way, but it increases your ego most of the time. So that is not acceptable thing. But if required, sometimes it's better to tell that. Today I'm going to tell something about myself. Usually I never do that, but today I'm going to tell that, because there is a reason. Actually, I'm going to use that in the presentation at some point. So that's why I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. But prior to that, actually, um, nature gives that opportunity, and if you do it efficiently, then it gives more and more and more work. Like, your capacity, or your eligibility, or your your energy levels actually increases, and you can do lots of things which other persons may think, like, it's really hard. How can that person do so many things in a particular day or within a given time? So that is actually, it's not the person's ability, but person's attitude towards extending the hand. So that is important, more important. So now coming to myself, as I said, like, and I would like to say a little bit about myself. I'm a software professional. I think many of you know that. And besides that, actually, my hobby being, teaching mathematics. I teach Vedic mathematics and regular mathematics, depending on the student's requirement. And then I recently acquired the ability to write poems in Telugu, which actually I never actually dreamt. I used to have that interest. Basically, I wanted to write some poetry and all that in my childhood, and I started writing some, not poetry, but I mean, like, chanda, based on chandas. But I used to write some things like a simple, kavita, we say. Some framing some sentences with Anchaprasa or something like that. But nowadays, actually, I started writing using chandas. So, which is, I feel very blessed about that thing. And then I started actually, sharing this kind of knowledge, and I started writing some articles, like, friend messages. I sent some of them in our group. So I think you might have seen those ones. And those are actually very few. I sent like 3 or 4, but I happened to do it for 2 years in one of my workplaces. So every weekend, every Friday, I used to send that message. So that's why actually I used to say Friday weekend message. So I just cut down that Friday. From Friday, I took FRI, and then weekend, I took END, and then I made it friend message. So FRI END message, like that. So, and I continued for 2 years like that. And I have lots of articles, and there's many more actually in my thought process, but I never actually put it on paper. So, so I need to do that at some point. So that is, a little bit about myself. But these things actually, I don't think it's my ability, but it's the nature given gift, one way. But initially, I started with something, and maybe I might have done it with sincere, effort. Maybe I got the other things as well into my life, and so that is a little bit about myself. And now coming to, our presentation today, I would like to share a PowerPoint, and then we'll continue from there. And one more thing I wanted to say, when I do the presentation, in between, after one particular module or something, I'll ask you, if you have any questions, you can feel free and ask those questions, so that, you will not be missing anything there. And then sometimes, the questions, you may feel can I express in that group? Fortunately, we don't have many people today, so that is one good way, because I used to take sessions for 15 members, like that, not more than that anytime. So I think this is a fortunate and good opportunity for you all to ask any questions. So there is no one unknown here. Everyone knows everyone. It's a small world, so you can express if you have any questions. Feel free to ask, and you can express your concerns, if I tell about one particular emotion, then if you have something similar to that, then you can bring up, that way. I think every person can see in their life, actually, how that particular emotion is bringing what kind of values and what kind of problems into the life, and that sort of things actually you can assess, and based on that you can take a decision. And in the program, actually, I would like to bring up some workshop. As I said, workshop, I'll tell you what to do, and then probably you can implement it at home, because here actually we can do certain things, but not all of them. So let's go with it. Okay, we have this presentation. Actually, in 2015, actually, I started giving presentation in small groups. 2014, I started with one or two people, not more than that. I used to tell them, how to get rid of anger or stress. It's actually, that is very good thing, because if we get rid of anger and stress, not only ourselves, but the people around us, they also get relaxed, and they also get that calmness and all that. So it not only helps us, but it helps people around us. So that is good point about it. So that's why I wanted to bring it, especially in workplaces and all. We see a lot of stress and anger, and they cannot express it in front of superiors. So they always try to suppress it, or express in front of another third party, and then they may have a question, that the third person might take that that conversation to tell your boss or something like that. And there are so many things, actually. So many times, actually, we try to suppress it, which is really harmful for our inner self. So that's what actually we are going to discuss. And okay, let me. So the specifics here. First, actually, why anger or stress is a problem. Since, I told it's a stress management program, but why I'm bringing anger here? Because root cause for both of them is same. So that's why I'm telling anger management or stress management, both actually falls under the same category. So, so now coming to this, how do we know it's a problem? Many times, actually, many people, they don't know it's a problem, the stress and all. They think it's part of our life. So it's not, actually, it's not part of our life, but it's our choice whether to have stress or not. But many times, because of um, unawareness. Many times we choose to accept the stress, and we think that is part of our life. But I'll explain you step by step, so that once the presentation is complete, we'll know like what exactly is the problem, what is the root cause, and what is the remedy, and what are the steps we need to take. Now coming to the second point, the side effects. This is what actually we see most of the time, like headache or shoulder pain, or sometimes anger, because of stress. Sometimes we express that in the form of anger on relatives or friends, whoever are there in our vicinity. And then the third thing is root cause. This is what actually we need to know. Once we know the root cause, then you think, oh, this is simple, so we can easily get rid of it. And then the remedy for it. So these are the things actually I wanted to discuss today. Now coming to emotions. We have three types of emotions, two types of emotions, you can say. One is positive emotions. This one everyone knows. And then negative emotions, we know sadness, hatred, and anger, and all these things. Now the third one is like, beyond emotions. This is what actually is told in Bhagavad Gita, like Sthita Prajnata, that's what they say. That means you're not actually, get sad when something happens, which you don't think is good for you. And then the other thing is like, you don't get excited when something good happens in favor of you. So these two things actually, when you have control on them, then that is actually beyond emotion state, which is called Sthita Prajnata. I think this part already you know that, but theoretically we know that, but practically it's not that easy to implement and get into that state. So every person gets angry at some points, and then how to control that thing, and is anger good or not? Many times actually our mind always thinks like, if anger is not good, then if you see our Puranas and all, even Vishwamitra got angry on Vasishtha, and then what happened? He killed all his 100 sons, right? Vasishtha's sons. So we know that kind of stories. Then uh, they actually meditated a lot, and then how come they got angry? They cannot control anger. This kind of questions actually arise in our mind most of the time. So I'll tell you the reason why it happens and all that down the line. Now, these are the emotions, just I gave some pictures. Now coming to our mind trends. As I said, that is one of the trend, we always compare with others, and they say that person got angry. Why shouldn't I? For good things, actually, if you think that way, that's good. That person achieved that particular goal. Why can't I? And if you think and if you work on that, that is good. That is constructive. Whereas if you take negative qualities in others or negative things, I mean, what we think negative, and then if you adapt that, we are getting into, wrong state and wrong path. So, which is not good. So there are many stories you might have heard about Shankaracharya and many other, like Buddha and so many others, because they are in a different state of mind. So whatever they do, that might work for them, but not for everyone else. Because Shankaracharya ate something which is not appropriate for Brahmin. So every disciple says he did that, why can't we? Then whatever he achieved, did they achieve that? No. So we need to think about the positive things, whatever the other person is other person attained, and we need to get those things. That is more productive rather than thinking about the negative things. And similarly, smoking, drinking, so many other habits. The problem is they always compare with another person or another hero, who they think hero, and then say that person does that, why can't I? And similarly, many times they say in If you go to Swarga, Indra and other devatas, they drink. So why can't I? Something like that. So that is all actually our mind gives that kind of reasoning, which is inappropriate in one way. But I'll tell you about our system, our thinking system, how it works, and why you are actually many times we get attracted to negative things. Sometimes even though if we want to stop it, we get addicted to certain things because of the same reason. I'm going to tell that in few minutes. Now, mind trends here, if we see the oscillating between past and future. Many times we don't live in present. Many times, we either think about past or, like dream about future. And that's what we do. And then actually doesn't take us anywhere. Because dreaming is required to some extent, because I need to do this, I need to have some plan. So that is not dreaming. We are planning something, that's good. But daydreaming, like, without action, if you think whatever you may think, that may not be appropriate, because we need to have action. So many times actually, things are not done because either we are thinking too much and not doing, or if you're doing without thinking. That is one of the proverbs, or some of the sayings recently I saw in WhatsApp and other media. So either we are not doing things, only just thinking, or we are doing things without thinking. So without plan, if you implement, sometimes it may not go well. And similarly, if you keep on planning, but you're not implementing anything, that also doesn't take you anywhere. So these are the things actually, oscillating between past and future. So we're always in either dreamland or in past world. And we are not in present. If you are in present, then you can see the difference. And then clings onto negative experiences. This is another thing many times we experience. Like, if something happens, some negative thing, we keep that in mind. We keep on, doing all that. Even if there is something good happens, we are not actually taking that. We always pick the negative experiences most of the time. There is a saying like, even 100 good things might be, thrown away if one negative things happens. So this is what actually many times, suppose if you are giving a lecture, or if you are sharing something, and 100 people say, oh, you did a wonderful job, you're great, something like that, we accept that. But at the same time, if one person says, I didn't do good, I think you should have done this, we get angry. Because that one negative thought actually is influencing all these 100 positive thoughts. So that is very dangerous thing. So if you can accept the negative feedback, and then if we need to think, if we think that is correct or wrong, we can analyze that. And if it is wrong, we can correct ourselves. And if it is right, if it is right, whatever the comment we got, if it is right, we need to correct ourselves. If if that is not correct, then the other person is jealous about this thing, and they might be telling something. So you cannot actually consider that. You can ignore it. So basically, we need to take that step, basically, whether we need to consider that or not. So this is what actually I already discussed about these things. So 100 good experiences are wiped out by one bad experience. So this is the dangerous part. Now coming to past, future, and present. This is actually, someone said, like, past is waste paper, which cannot change. Because if you take a newspaper, let's take a newspaper, and a 20 years old newspaper, it really doesn't help you anywhere. So we can think that way. And then present is newspaper, which is in control. And then future, that is actually which is not known. Or you can take a question paper, like examination question paper, you can think. And the past is waste. Basically, I know it might give some guidance, but it's not the whole. And similarly, the present, whatever, if you're writing exam, that is the present thing, so which is very useful. But future question paper, we don't know what you're going to get. That is also not in our hands. And then if you study it carefully, and if we use it in the current situation, then it's good. Otherwise, it's going to be like tissue paper, like that. So we need to handle things in such a way that we are getting something out of it. Now coming to our actions. Many times actually, we have three different types of actions we take. Actually, all of them starts with I. So it's very important you can remember that as well. Instinct level, and then the second one is intellectual level, and then third one is like intuition level. These are the three things. So here actually I mentioned about TPS. That means nothing but thoughts per second. Thoughts per second. So if you see any yogi or any spiritual person, their thoughts per second is very, very low. So many times whatever they say, that happens. And many times, whatever they think, that manifests. So that is, low TPS. And high TPS means basically we are, if you are in this world, and then we are actually, like so many thoughts are coming up every second. That count may be, like 30 thoughts or 40 thoughts a second. Imagine, like you are thinking about something, and at the same moment, you are switching to another, thought. And then before actually it ends, or before you think about it, you switch to another thought, like that. There is no like relation from one thought to another thought. We always switch from different thoughts, and we have no clarity about it. So that is one of the things many of us face. So if in that particular state we cannot make a decision, even if we make a decision, that may not work properly. Like we end up like starting something, but before actually concluding it, before we continuing it, we actually get into another thought. So we start something, and then we stop in the middle, and we start another thing like that, but we never complete anything. That is what actually is happen. That's what happens most of the time. So that is high TPS. So that is instinct level. And then intellectual level is second one, which basically we put little bit of thought about it. Like, we have 10 different ideas. We just put on a paper, and we think about it, and which one to start. We set priority, we do things in a proper order. That way, we know, like, what is best and what is least priority and all that. So that way, actually, we end up doing something productive. So that is actually intellectual level. And then intuition level, which is actually beyond these two. There actually we have control over our thoughts. This is like this. See, if you take a water, I mean, like a tap, if you start, releasing the water, initially you see drop, 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 like that. So if you increase the speed, actually the drops, you cannot count at some point, like, it's so speeded up. And then if you still open it, you see a stream of, water stream. So there actually, you don't know how many drops are there. So they all combined and then came. And then if you increase more, then what happens? Because, you have so much of pressure in that, you see the turbulence in that water when it's coming out. So basically, if our number of thoughts per second, if they increase, naturally, the turbulence happens, which actually leads to, like our bad mental state, and we cannot do certain things. We want to relax, but at the same time, we cannot relax because of so many thoughts. So many people think like, controlling thoughts, which is not possible most of the time. Like, you cannot control thoughts, but you can actually, suppose if you have some animal, pet animal, you pet it, and then actually it listens to your words. Similarly, I mean, we need to, the thoughts actually rise from our, what do you call, manas. Actually, I use those Sanskrit words because in English, actually, we say mind. Um, I don't know whether I can really say mind and manas both are same or not, but we think mind and manas both are same, and buddhi is basically like our intellect, we can say, but it's not a true meaning of buddhi is not intellect; it's something different. And similarly, we have chittam. Chittam means basically our memory, and that is one thing. And then ego is another one. We call aham, basically in Sanskrit. Aham means actually there are two meanings. One is basically like ego, which always the person says like I'm great, and we always say I'm the you know greatest one, and that sort of, not that sort of ego. Ego means basically decision making. What do you call, organ, or maybe decision making um, office, you can say. So these are the four things actually decides, whether if you are doing something, whether you are doing it or not doing it, it depends based on these four, what do you call, um, four groups, basically four groups of, or four entities. So I use those words and I'll explain how it works. Basically, Manas and Buddhi, these two are actually, you can say, lawyers. And then Aham, or ego, that is, the judge you can think of. And then the memory is actually is the documents which are available. So Manas is always, keeps on documenting so many documents in our, chitta. Basically, chitta is means memory. So it keeps so many events happened before, and based on that, it presents to our ego, saying, "Okay, this is what is the proof." So I don't want to attend this presentation because I had so many presentations. I didn't like it. So I don't want to attend this presentation. And some people may think like, I had some presentations. They're very nice. So I wanted to attend. So that kind of decision that Manas and Chitta, they take it. And then Buddhi always says the right thing, but it doesn't show any evidence. So it says, okay, this is right. That is what it does. So what happens many times, actually, the ego trusts the manas, which presents, so many documents and all. So naturally it tends to accept that. That is where actually we get into either wrong path or right path. That is the only decision point. So if manas and buddhi, if they are in sync, then that is when I think your TPS will go down, and then whatever I said earlier, like you'll be in present state, and then Sita Prajnata, that actually comes when those two are in sync. And of course, in Bhagavad Gita, we see like the five horses, they represent our indriyas, and then and the Saradi is Manas, and he can control. I mean, like the whatever, whoever actually leads that chariot is Manas. And then Atma is basically the person who is actually riding. If you take Arjuna, is the Atma, and then Krishna is, he gave the chariot, the control, whole control to Krishna, which means basically we need to surrender ourselves to someone who can lead it. And then that will be taken care of. I mean, most of the issues will be taken care, and then we can work efficiently. That is one of the philosophical thing from Bhagavad Gita, but I think there are lots of other meanings and so many things. White color represents, Sattva Guna and so many other things. Now, actually, if we go that extent, I think, it'll be late for our presentation. So I wanted to conclude as quickly as possible, these things, and then we can get onto questions, and there actually we can learn more. Okay, now coming to this TPS thing. If your TPS is low, thoughts per second is low, that means you can do lots of things. I'll tell you another thing, suppose if there is a friend, okay, our thoughts, basically, we are not generating it. Our mind, our manas, that is actually generating those thoughts. So we get so many thoughts, and then sometimes even we don't observe it. They just come and go, come and go, come and go. We cannot stick to one particular thought, because while sticking to one thought, there's so many other thoughts. We actually tend to see the other ones, what is there. And that is when actually we get confused and we don't know. Like the water stream, we cannot identify each individual drop in that. But if you slow down that that stream, when you cut that tap, slowly actually it comes down, comes down, comes down. At one point, you can see drop by drop. There you can identify your individual thought. So that is what actually we need to achieve. Once we achieve that, that is ultimate thing one can find. So then we'll have a capacity, to implement certain thing, because we can choose, okay, what are the thoughts we are getting, and what to implement, what not to implement, what to ignore, and what to consider. So many, we can decide based on that. But if you have so many thoughts, it's really hard to pick the right one and the correct one. So that is a problem. So for this, we can think thoughts are actually uninvited guests for us. Many times, actually, we don't call them, but they keep on coming. So if suppose a guest comes, if he stays, 1 day, not a problem. If he stays 2 days, maybe you can adjust. But if they come and, settle down, at some point, actually, we need to say, it's getting burden for us. So just why can't you step out? Something like that, right? But it's really hard to say that, because, we have that kind of relation with our thoughts also. So we cannot simply say that. So what we need to do is we should ignore them. That is actually a different way, hard way. But I mean, I'm not asking you to do that with your guests. I'm just giving an example, thinking that way. So suppose if a guest comes, and if he stays, and if you don't care much about that person, after some time they get bored, and this person is not taking care at all. So it's better to leave. And then after some time they stop coming. So if it is the case, then you'll have guests only if they require something, like if they really need your help, or your they want to stay in your home, then only they come. Otherwise they don't come, just wasting your time and just spending there without doing anything like that, right? So similarly, I mean, the thoughts also, if you encourage them, if you just feed them, they keep on coming, they never stop. So we need to watch them, but we should not actually encourage them, we should not extend them, we should not think about them. So that is what is the practice we need to do. So I'll tell you what to do, maybe after some time. So then you can practice at home. It won't take much time. You can spare 5 minutes to 10 minutes maximum. And then you can see the difference. Within a week's time, you can see the difference. So I can guarantee that, because I implemented it myself, and I found the results. So that's why I'm telling this. Now coming to the next part. So negative emotions, because I'm starting with negative emotions, because positive emotions is not a problem, because we are happy, and we are not actually disturbing others. We are not actually impacting others' lifestyle. So I'm just considering only negative emotions. Here actually, what happened? Okay. Here actually, greed. greed and need, these two terms are actually kind of opposite, we can say. Need means whatever we need, like whatever is required for our living, that is need. But greed means actually, even though we have whatever we want, but we always go for more and more and more. So that is greed, right? And similarly, anger, which is very dangerous. Like I know, we think when you get angry, things will get settled, things will get better, but it's not. Actually, we are hurting ourselves rather than the other person. If the other person cares, when you're angry, the other person cares, and if things gets better, then it's okay. But many times actually we get angry, but the other person doesn't care, then you're the person actually getting hurt. So this is very dangerous thing. We are going to discuss more about this today. And then coming to the next thing, attachment to things versus sharing and caring. So many times we get attached to things, and then we not even bother about sharing the access or caring others. So which is actually, when you do that, we are going to attain certain things which while accumulating resources or accumulating lots of wealth, it really doesn't help at any point, rather than increasing our ego. So, okay, we'll discuss about that a little bit more later. Now, coming to jealousy, this is another negative emotion, which is actually, not useful at all. Because, if you are jealous about another person, that person is not going to lose anything. We are not gaining anything at the same time. So it's only we are actually hurting our inner self, and we are actually think about negative things about the other person. It really doesn't harm the other person also. So only thing, we are getting impacted because of it. Now I want to tell some stories here. Like coming to jealousy, I heard one story in my childhood which really made me think about it many times in my lifetime. Um, the story goes like this: two brothers, they start meditating on Shiva. So actually, after some time, Shiva appears in front of the elder. I mean, like one of the brothers, which who is elder. Then Shiva asks, like, what do you want? Actually, I'm impressed with your meditation, so I wanted to give you some boon. Then this person says, did you go to my brother? He says, no, I didn't go. Okay, why don't you go there, and whatever he asks, I want double for that. So actually, many times we don't think about ourselves. We think about, neighbors, like, if they have something, we need to have something better than that or more than that. That is what our goal most of the time. So this person asks this. Okay, then Shiva says, okay, let it be that way. And then he goes to the younger brother and asks the same thing, like, I'm impressed with your meditation, so I wanted to give you some boon. What do you want? Then he asks, like, did you go to my brother there? He says, yes. What did he ask? Yes. Yeah, Shiva actually says, like, he asked whatever you ask, he wants double for that. Then this guy thinks a little bit and says, like, why didn't you take one of my eyes? So this is what actually, like because of jealousy, that is what actually is going to it. Like, either this person or that person will be happy because of jealousy. I think both of them are going to get impacted if they have that. But many times actually in education and all, our ancestors used to say, like, for a student, comparison is required. Comparison means basically not the one we are seeing in current society. Like, if the person is getting 98%, he always looks for 99 or 100%, something like that. It's not like that kind of comparison. But if he is getting that much, what is the reason? What is he learning in addition to what I'm learning? And then if he's missing something, he need to correct himself and then learn those things. If he's knowing more compared to the other person, then he's happy. And then if the other person asks, he should share, like, what exactly he's learning more than that person. So that way, actually, both of them can grow. So this is what actually now high school, till high school, actually, I used to see this. Like, whenever the exam happens, we used to discuss about ourselves, asking, like, how many marks did you get? Oh, you got that many. So what is wrong with my answer? Let's see. And then we used to compare our answers and see, oh, you wrote this. Okay, this gave extra mark for you. So okay, next time I should not do that mistake. And we used to learn that way. So that really helped us and down the line. But after intermediate, and so I think the way changed. Every person actually wanted to get their own benefit, but they're not actually ready to help others or share knowledge with others. So I saw that, in my degree, masters, everywhere almost. So which is actually one way bad, but at least we used to have some values at that point. Now I don't know. Even parents, they are always comparing with other kids, and they wanted their kid at the top. How many people can get first rank? Only one person at all the time. You cannot have more than that. But nowadays, even the institutions also got little clever, and then they're giving 100 first ranks rather than giving one first rank. So that way, I mean, they're convincing the parents. All parents, 100 parents says, like, my kid is a first rank person. So that actually satisfies their ego. But what are the kids learning? They're learning nothing better than others. The same thing they are learning. But many times actually they wanted to be on first rank or first position, whatever they say that should happen. If it doesn't happen, many kids actually, they are getting into depression, and they're doing all sorts of nonsense. Of course, in US and many other places we are seeing that, so which is not good. So the jealousy is very dangerous thing, and which is not good at all. So that is one thing I wanted to say. And then coming to the next thing, ego and gratitude. This is another thing. Ego, I think many of you know the story. One sculptor used to be there in in olden days, and he used to do the sculpturing work very well, and he used to create life size personal sculptures, and then they look similar to the person. It's really hard to find out whether that is person or sculpture. So one time his death time actually comes. So he wanted to, he don't want to lose his life. So he does his own. I mean, he creates his own sculptures, some hundreds, and then put them, and he also lie down in between. And then when Yamadharmaraja comes, he sees so many statues of the same type. He wanted to pull the right person. If he put that that pasa on any one of the other statues, then I think I think it's not good. So he wanted to choose, I mean, find out the right person. He tries many times, and finally, before like giving up, he just plays a trick. Says, like, all these statues are good, but this particular statue is having some problem. Before he says the problem, what is the problem, and he gets up, and then immediately he takes him away. So that ego actually many times it won't let us keep our calmness. Many times it wanted to stay on top. So that is one story I had in my childhood. So like that, I mean, for every one of these emotions, I have stories, but I don't want to extend it that much. So I'm just telling some stories like that. And coming to the side effects, because of greed, there is no satisfaction at all. So we want more, more, more. So I used to have one friend, when he was struggling a lot to, save some money. And he always used to say, like, I want to go back to India and settle down. But and he used to tell so many things. Then I asked him, like, what is your goal? Like, he said, I want to make $1 million and then go back to India. Okay, let it be that way. So he earned more than $1 million. But after that, I met him, and you earned $1 million, and he said you wanted to go back to India. What happened? Then he says, now I'm looking for 2 million, something like that. I mean, he didn't say that, but he said some other reasons. But actually, he's targeting for something higher. So this is what happens. Many times, if we achieve something, we have no satisfaction. And then we keep on adding, and we never get satisfied. So there is a story for this as well. Maybe I might have sent you this. One king actually gives a boon, he announces, like, he wanted to give his property to poor people. So many people actually put applications, and one of the candidate he chooses, I mean, like many others, but one of them actually, he comes to the king and he says, like, I chose you. I wanted to give you the land, how much you can run in one particular like 1 hour time, how much land you can cover, that much land is yours. And then he appoints some ministers and all to take care of it. So this the timer starts, and this guy starts running, and he starts with high speed, and then he goes to some extent, and after that he loses his breath, and then still he don't want to give up. And then whoever, actually the minister, says, like, just why don't you stop a bit and you can drink some water and relax, and then you can continue. He says, no, I don't want to stop. And then he continues. And at some point, actually, he can hear his heartbeat. It increases, and still he don't want to give up. And after some time, actually, he collapses. So he never completes that circle, basically, to cover. So finally, I mean, what we learned from that is, we need to have some goal. That is not a problem. But once you achieve that goal, okay, you can go for higher ones, and not a problem. But we should not actually, sacrifice other things which are important. Greed is not only the thing. There are so many other things we can focus on. So that is one of the stories. Now coming to next one, anger. We lose ability to think. When we are angry, many times we don't know what exactly we are doing. Some people actually, they use verbal violence. Some people, they do physical violence. Some people might do, throwing, I mean, of course, that is also physical violence, throwing whatever is there in hands, and things like that happen. So if you observe, that is all done unconsciously. Unconscious means not physical unconsciousness, but it's mental unconsciousness. So if we are in that state, we don't know what exactly we are doing. We do the things, and later at some point we repent, like, why did I do this? So there was some story for this as well. I'll tell it simple words, few minutes. So one family, a healthy, happy family is there. And then the father buys a new car. And then seeing that car, everyone in the family get excited. And the baby, I mean, the child, say 4 or 5 years old child, and then she gets excited and goes there and write on the car saying, I love you, daddy, something like that. So when the father sees that, immediately he gets angry, and then, just beat the child. And then that child gets hurt, and then immediately they take her to hospital. And then finally she gets lots of stitches, and things happen like that. When they come back, then he says, I love daddy. That's a statement. But the problem is, like, when he sees, he's actually more attached to that car rather than, the human relation. So he never thought like, what's going to happen if he does that. So unconsciously he did that, and later he repented, like, why did I do this? Because of that, I mean, she's suffering a lot. So this kind of things happen many times. So anger is, there are so many other stories also, like because of anger, at one moment we do that, and later actually we repent for that. Why did I do this? And then we cannot take back whatever we did. So that is, we need to think about it. So anyway, that is our focus for today. So I'm not going to tell much now. And then jealousy, as I said, like, no use at all. So ego, this one actually most of the time it won't let us listen to others. Whenever we have ego, like, I think like I know everything. Why should I listen to the other person? uh, does he know anything other than what I know? And that is what our mind says all the time. So naturally we don't listen to the other person. So who is losing? We are only losing. So the other person might tell some good things. If we listen, we are going to get something out of it. If we don't listen, I mean, the other person is not going to lose anything, because whatever he's acquiring, that is with him. And so there is one saying, like, about greed. We should have greed in certain things, such as, like, while learning, we should have greed. Oh, I learned only this much. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. That is, and similarly while giving, that is basically, if you are donating, say, $100 this year, next year I should give $200 or maybe $300, something like that. We should increase that. That greed we should have. And similarly, there are so many other things, similar kind of things. So we need to have greed in those areas, not while acquiring or while getting some properties and all those things. Now coming to the next thing, uh, worry. This is actually, somewhere related to our stress also. Worry. And then this is very nice presentation by one of the Swamijis, I think from ISKCON, I guess. So the first question is like, do you have any problem in life? If you say no, then no worry. Then why worry? Okay, if you have some problem, if you say yes, okay, can you do something about it? If you say yes, you can do something about it, then why worry? You can do that. And if you say no, you can't do anything about it, so why worry? I mean, you can just accept it, because you can't do anything. So because of worrying, nothing helps. I mean, helps. Moreover, actually, our internal organs, they get like stressed, which is not good, and we come. I mean, because of that, we may get um, some diseases or something like that. They pop up in a different way. So if if there is some pillow having air in that, and if you press on one side, the other side actually, pops out. And if you press on the other side, it pops out this side. Similar kind of thing, like, if you have some pressure or something built inside, and if you don't get it out, basically, if you are pressing at some point, you are getting it in another place. Actually, it pops up in another way. So that is what actually, our diseases and all. And now coming to the next thing, comparison. This is a very many times we think like, why all problems come to me, like, and we always say like, why good things happen with others. This is one of the questions everyone have, but we never think like, for the other person we are actually outsiders, or we are actually other persons may see us and say, oh, this person is very happy, why can't why I'm not getting that happiness, something like that. So always, every person thinks like the problems are with him, only for him, but others are happy. So there is one story about this as well. Like, it's kind of a Akbar Birbal story, I think. There actually, they announce, the king announces in the kingdom, saying whoever is having problems, they can write down their problems and then put it in one particular, box, and then we shuffle them, and then they can take one out of the other thing, and the next day one chit from that, and whatever they get, they are going to exchange their problems. Then actually, everyone writes down and put there, and then finally, when time comes the next day, every person thinks like, my old problem is better than this one. So I don't want my new problems at all. I want my old problem. So everyone goes to, they don't want to exchange those things. So when it comes to us, we always think like, our problem is a toughest one. The other person's problem is less weighted, but it's not true. Many times, if you think that is not correct. So yeah. Always we say like, the far away places, they look smoother, but it's not. When you go there, I think you can see that hard and rough surface. Similarly, and then reason for anger and stress. Now we are coming to our actual topic and the reasons. So expectations from others. We always think like, if we say something, if we do something, we always look for good feedback all the time. If we get bad feedback, we cannot take it. That is many times we notice it. And then the conditional love is the second one, because we need to have unconditional love, like mother's love. She does so many things, but she never actually expects anything in return. And today is, for the Mother's Day also, I wanted to bring that topic, unconditional love. So mother always does that, and then she never actually expects anything in return. But if you give some small flower and say like, thank you, she feels so great. So that kind of simplicity she maintains. So we need to acquire that kind of love. And then expectations from others, we always think the other person should be like this, or he should say good about my thing. Like if he says like, you're a good father, or you're a good citizen, or you are a good teacher, something like that, we feel so happy. But if one person says like, I think you better change yourself, this is not good or something, we cannot accept it. So we always expect good feedback all the time. That is another problem for stress or anger. And then coming to the next thing, comparing with others. This is another thing. If another person is, achieving something, we should take it as an inspiration. We need to try for it without, doing anything, and we compare with other person. And then if you want all those, what he achieves, and we want to achieve that, without putting the required effort, then that doesn't make sense anyway. So that comparison always brings stress, especially in workplaces and all. We see this a lot because all people, all humans are not alike. I might be good at some particular what do you call uh, um, some particular technique or some particular knowledge, but another person may be good at some other thing, not the same thing. So in that case, basically, it's always better to keep what we are strong in, and we can expand it. And if we want to achieve other things, we need to practice. We need to take some time and do whatever is required for that. But always comparing, and if we always discourage ourselves, it's not going to help anyway. So now coming to the next thing, connecting past experiences. This is another thing, like, if something happens 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we always think about that. And in the similar kind of situation, I got hurt. In the similar kind of situation, this thing happened. We always compare that, and we actually make our mind, think or believe like, now it should happen, something like that. Because 10 years ago, if something happened and the consequence was something, and if the similar kind of situation happens, it may change now. It may not, you may not get the same consequence what happened 10 years ago. It may be different now. but we don't say that. We always think like, oh, 10 years ago, I got that and the consequence is that. So now also I might get the same thing. When you think that, our mind actually is very powerful. So it actually tries to implement that. And then, things happen in that fashion. So, which is not good. So we should not actually think about past. Okay, that experience might be useful to um, decide certain things, but we cannot completely rely on that. That is important part. Now coming to the next thing, anger types. This is very important. Um, we have anger types, three types we can say. Okay, one is surface level anger, the other one is short term anger, and then deep level anger. These three things. Surface level anger means basically, parents to kids. Suppose if they say like, a small kid is taking a knife, then the father or mother, they gets angry and say like, you should not take that. And they show their angry face, but they're not angry with the kid because, they're telling for the kid's good. Like, the kid may get hurt because they don't know how sharp the knife is and what might happen if they misuse it. So that's why they gave that instruction with the anger. But that anger is not deep level anger. It's actually surface level. They're not having any bad terms with the kid, right? They always think for the kid's growth and betterment. Now coming to the other one, a good boss to his subordinates. That is also good anger. Like, if he makes a mistake, they may feel angry. Like, they may say like, you shouldn't have done this because of this, so much of impact happened in the organization. So everyone is looking at us. So we should not do this. That anger is good because we should not do that mistake next time. But actually he's not having any negative thoughts about it. Like, he actually forget it next minute and he always encourages you to do good things and all that. So that's why I said good boss. Sometimes it may not happen that way. um, Grudges and all those things actually, if they come into picture, that is a different thing. But generally a good boss always suggests subordinates in a right way. They lead them in the right way. So that is a surface level anger. Then short term anger, this is we see with the many people, they get angry at the moment, and then next hour or 2 hours later, they behave like, as if nothing happened. This is a special kind of thing. We always say mukkopi. This kind of thing we say mukkopi. Like whenever they see something, immediately they get angry, and then next minute I think they forget it. So that is short-term anger, which is sometimes good. Sometimes, people scared to go and tell something. Like, if they get angry, they may get, feel bad. They may feel bad. So that's why short-term anger is not good. But yeah, some way it's better. He's actually expressing it out. So not a problem. And then deep level anger, which is very dangerous. We don't express it. We just keep on piling anger on the other person, and slowly it actually turns into hatred. So whenever, I mean, like, suppose if you have bad experience with one person, we think, okay, this person is actually hurting me. And then after, sometime again, if he experience similar kind of thing, you have something piled up on that. And then even the person changes. And this time, if he says something good about you, then you always think about the previous experiences and then say like, whatever he says, we don't consider that. We always ignore it. So that is kind of basically hatred. So whenever we see that person, we get always, our mind immediately says, okay, this person, okay, ignore this. We have bad experiences with the person, so we should not consider something like that. So this kind of deep anger is not good. So this actually makes other person enemies. Like, after some time we stop talking to the person, something like that, and slowly actually the relation gets spoiled, and then they become enemies. And this is like in India, we used to use boilers, right? Here, I think here also we use, but we know very less about it. But the boilers, when use hard water, basically it forms scales. The scales actually is so thick, and then after some time, yeah, it takes so long for the water to get heated up, because it forms a layer in between, which actually is not a good conductor of heat. So naturally, we'll have some issues. And sometimes, if the thickness gets more and more, it blasts also, which is very bad about the boilers. So it's very hard to repair also. When you try to remove those scales, basically you are losing some of the material there, and the thickness, actually the material thickness will go down slowly. So our anger is like that. Deep anger is like that. It actually harms our inner self, basically, which actually is very dangerous. So we are going to learn more about the consequences of anger. This one, I think I'll just go through it. I think most of you know these things. But up to this, if you have any questions, you can ask. You can unmute and ask if you have any questions. Otherwise, I can continue in just next 10 seconds. Okay. Looks like I think everyone is... there's nothing hard in this, whatever I presented so far. So I think, yeah, I think that's good. Now, consequences of anger. We see the body temperature rises whenever you are angry. I don't know whether you ever observed that. But if you get angry, now try to see, like, what are the consequences of it. Body temperature rises, and then you get lots of sweating. And then the next thing is our voice. Even though the person is just right next to you, you use a higher volume, high voice, right? I mean, which is very specific to that anger, right? And then stammering. You cannot tell a word, clearly. Yeah, you actually, the words actually, they jumble. Sometimes you say something, you wanted to say something, but you say something like that. So this is another thing. And unconscious actions. This is what I was telling earlier. Like many times, we throw whatever is there in our hand. Sometimes we slap the other person, or sometimes we do something or other, which with unconscious state. Unconscious state of mind, I can say. And then violence. This is another thing. Of course, because of unconscious actions, violence also takes place. And then shallow breathing. We lose, the breathing track. Whenever you are angry, I think you have shallow breathing. So these are the consequences. And violence, actually, if I say violence, we have 3 types of violence. Physical violence, of course, you all know, like it heals after some time, like days or weeks or months, depends. And then verbal violence. This is also you all know, like we scold the other person and do such sort of things, and that lasts for a long time compared to physical violence, but heals after some time, that also. But if you take thought violence, this is actually many people they don't know they're actually this particular violence. If you think bad about the other person, like that also matters a lot. There was a story about Akbar Birbal. So once they were actually going in the marketplace in disguise, and then one of the shops actually, while going, Akbar feels like punching that particular shop owner. Then Birbal says, okay, without reason, how can we punish that person? Okay, let me find out later. And then they go to palace. And then he sends some spies and ask them to find out what's the reason why the king felt like that. Then those people actually, goes to the owner and chit chat for some time. And then in that conversation, And he says like, my business is so bad nowadays, and it's really getting hard for me to maintain my family and kids, and getting food stuff and all that. So I was just thinking like, if the king dies, they use lots of like sandalwood for the last rites. So I was just thinking about that. Like, that particular shop owner, he sells sandalwood basically. So that's what he says. Then Birbal knows why actually king got that kind of problem. When immediately he sent some people and asked them to purchase lots of sandalwood and get chairs and so many other stuff for the palace. That's what they do. And next, after a few days, again, king and Akbar and Birbal, both of them goes in the same street. And this time, after seeing that owner, the king says, somehow I feel like rewarding that person. Then Birbal knows the reason. So later, he finds out like, he says like, the king bought so much of sandalwood and now I'm happy with my family. And he says like, this king should live for a long time. And he says that. So that actually triggers something in his mind. So our thoughts are so powerful like that. So if we think bad about, other person, naturally, I think that impact will be there. So this is very unknowingly we do this most of the time. So if we can control that, that really helps a lot. Now I think how to handle anger. This is the next step. Actually, we came to the third step. So we are going to conclude in another 15 minutes or so. Okay. Here actually suppression is one of the things. As I told, like, if you cannot express in front of the other person, like, if boss says something, you are actually angry about it, but you cannot say anything in front of your boss. So you bring that anger home and show it on others. Basically, we are distributing it, to a different set of people. So that is what is happening. Some people even they can't do that also, so they actually suppress it. So which is actually kind of piles up, and then at some point actually it's kind of a volcano. It builds pressure, and at some point it blasts, which is not good. So that is the first thing. And then expression. In expression, we have two things: active expression and passive expression. Two things. What is active expression? Basically, if someone says something wrong about me, and if I get angry, I directly say like blast that person, and then I just after that I ignore, I forget about it. So that is active thing. So because of which I think we lose the relationship. Sometimes it may end up in fighting, things like that. So that is active thing. Passive thing, basically, at that moment we ignore it, but in the third person's presence we tell that, okay, this is what happened, and we express it in the third person's presence. So that way actually we are actually like, the burden actually we are getting rid of. So otherwise, if we keep it within ourselves, that is suppression, which actually adds more burden to us. But whereas if you express it in third person's presence also, that is one way good. So this one actually is implemented in many ways. Like if you know some of the meditation techniques, we have that kind of meditation techniques where we write down all the anger, basically, what you want to say the other person, if the person is in front of you, and then if you can express it, what kind of things you do, you can write it down, and then you can burn it, or you can just do whatever you want, and then you can forget it. So that is one technique. And um, there is another technique, like you express it verbally without using regular words, like you use some gibberish language, they say. So that kind of meditation is also there. So some people actually, they do it. They go into a room, silent, one person, and in front of mirror, sometimes, they imagine the person is there in front of you, and then they keep saying whatever bad, things you want to say, and then they tell it, and then they just ignore about that, and then forget about that person. So that is another way of passive stress reliever. That is a stress reliever, passive expression. So other than these two, we have an extraordinary one, which is forgive and forget, and that is the best solution. This is even though it's the best solution, it's really hard to implement, because if the other person scolds, um, you don't know what to do. Only enlightened people like Buddha, we hear about them. Like, if the other person says, you are a beggar, you don't know anything, something like that, he says, okay, I accept it. Simply they say, I accept it, because they know what they are, right? If the other person says something, actually they're not changing anyway. So if you know what you are, then why should you care about other person's comments? So that's what their state of mind. So that is called forgive and forget. So if forgiving is not only enough, forgetting is also important. Like, after 10 years, if you remember, when you see that person, if you remember that negative thing, and then actually again it's a problem. Like, you have something still piled up. Okay. So every person is different on every day, every second. Basically, this minute I am like this. Maybe after 1 second, I think my cells, lots of cells actually, they change. So I'm totally different person. So we never know, like, what kind of a change the person gets in within a given short time. So we should consider every, even though you know the person for the last 10 years or 15 years, every day you see them, that person is a new person. That's what is should be the way of thinking. Then we forget about all the past experiences. If it is good or bad, yeah, of course we should remember good experiences, because we should acknowledge them at some time. But bad experiences we should not actually consider. We should just keep it aside. Okay, now coming to the transition. This is the last step, actually, the remedy. How do we transition from that anger or stress? So here, let us start appreciating others. This is one thing actually, we don't do many times. Like, if the other person is having some ability, and if he's good at something, we should able to say, like, you did a good job, you're great, something like that. But our majority times our mind doesn't allow that. We always think like, why should I appreciate that person? Something like that. And similarly, if two persons come across, many times actually, our attitude is like, let the other person say hello, then we'll respond. We never actually take initiative. So that is another thing. I mean, even though other person doesn't respond, we start saying hello or good morning, something like that. That makes a lot of difference. Okay. Now here we'll see. Our feelings reflect others and come back to us. This is actually when you start appreciating, we get appreciation, but we should not expect that. That is what actually Bhagavad Gita says, right? So we should not expect anything. We do things just keeping like, we are serving God, or serving the nature, something like that, and we do things, but we should not expect anything. If we expect things and if we don't get it, we are in deep trouble. We always depressed, or we feel angry. Those things actually come into picture. So expectation is the first thing we should get rid of. So if appreciation comes, that's good, but you should not take it for yourself, taken granted. But it's because of the nature's ability. Nature gave that ability to you to do that. So thank the nature or God, whoever you believe in. So that is what we need to say. So thank God. Every day we say that is a gratitude. We can say morning, we say like, thank you for giving another day for me, something like that. So that is one thing. And let us wish others, whether we know them or don't know them. This is very important. Many times, if we know them, we say hello or good morning, something like that. If we don't know, we even doesn't smile. We put serious faces and go from there. It's not required as such. I tell a story here, like a small story. One person actually works in some cold storage area. So he every morning when he goes to work, he, the punch card system used to be there, right? He used to report, and then at receptionist, he used to say hi to the receptionist every day. And then he used to go to work, and once the evening 5 o'clock siren is on, that means he used to come back, and he used to say good night to the receptionist. That's what used to happen every day. One day, actually, the receptionist sees him going in, saying hello, and while in the evening, actually, he never sees him saying good night, anything. So he gets doubt, and then he just as a to make sure everything is okay, he goes and get into the cold storage. By the time it was like half an hour or 40 minutes, so his body temperature is going down. He got stuck in that cold storage, that person. And then he tries to call, because the door is a very thick door, and nobody could hear him. And then he struggles for some time, and then at some point he wants to cry out loud, but he cannot, because he lost all his energy. And then he goes to unconscious state. Then actually this receptionist immediately sees that person, and then takes him to hospital, and he somehow he get back to normal. Then they ask that person, what happened? I don't know. I got stuck in there, and after that I got unconscious. I don't know what happened after that. Then they tell this receptionist actually took him to the hospital and all that. Then he realizes, like, how important it is to say hi, even though if you don't know that person. Sometimes it's really helps, like this. So here's one story I learned from somewhere. And then let's replace I with we, representing a group. Actually, we means basically, many people think, many times I write, we decided to do this, something like that. They think it's a self-respect I'm giving myself, but it's not. We means basically, I represent a group of people. Like if you say Sangamitra, it's not only me, there are so many behind. So I say Sangamitra, we do this, or we are all representing this, and we are presenting this, something like that. So that we is actually not self-respect we, but it is actually group of people. So that way, if you do it, it's going to be a great achievement for the team, because no one actually claims, like, it's my achievement, something like that. It's actually group achievement, which actually brings a good outcome. So that is one thing. At workplace and all, I used to say this, and many people used to like it, and I saw difference in some of my workplaces as well. And then this one, of course, even if you replace I with we, even illness becomes wellness. So best example is myself for that. And then coming to need to know. Here, actually, we always think our mind is taken, it's a kind of dustbin. We put anger, jealousy, hatred, so many unwanted things there. Rather than that, we need to treasure it with happiness and good memories and love and all these things. So that way, I think we can help ourselves rather than helping others. And then resources. We have lots of resources, but we don't know how to use it. If we don't use them, and that is the scenario. You have lots of ladders. If you put a ladder, I think you can see what is there on the other side a much better way. But he don't know how to use those resources, so he can't see what is there on the other side. So exactly, I mean, here actually you got it. I think like the other side means when you follow certain things, you see a different world, which is always happy, always joyful and blissful, and that kind of world. I mean, we cannot see that without using the resources we have. Without using a resource that gets wasted, even very costly car, if you don't use it and keep it in a garage, it's not going to help. Actually, it gets spoiled after some time. So likewise, I mean, we should use our resources like our mind, our thoughts, our actions. We have so much of so many resources and so much of energy. We should consume it. We should use it in right direction to achieve certain things. So that is what that particular slide says. And then this one, of course, everyone knows. We at a young age will have a lot of time, lot of energy, but we don't have money to spend. But in the middle age, we don't get time, but we get lots of energy and money. So we spend that energy in accumulating lots of money. But when you get into old age, basically you have lots of time, lots of money, but you cannot use it because the energy is no more. I mean, we cannot travel a lot. So we need to balance it in such a way that every moment actually we need to use the resources what we have. And many people, they think once I retire, probably I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and we do lots of promises to ourselves. But when we retire, we don't know whether we'll have that energy to do those things. So I always say, start with half an hour. I mean, you cannot spend whole your time on certain whatever you are interested in, but at least weekly half an hour you can spare and do those things, and then later you can see the difference. Of course, I need not tell that. You can see yourself, whatever it may be. You can teach whatever you know, or you can do some service, or you can do some planting work, or you can do some artwork, or you can do whatever you are interested in, or you can play tennis, or you can play some other game. So that way, basically, you're initially you may start with half an hour, but later you can see the difference. You can spend more time on that, as well as you can do your regular work without any interruption, and you can do with much efficiency. That is the best part, you can experience. So I'm telling all this, not from books or not from these things, but I implemented myself. I practice many of these things, and then whatever I experienced, I'm telling this. So I think you can trust on me on this one. So yeah, I mean, there's no harm actually if you practice that, and you're not going to lose anything. If you gain, you gain. Otherwise, no harm, right? So yeah. Anyway, you're doing that, spending half an hour for your interested thing, not for anything else. So it might help most of the time. Okay, next, coming to the next thing, true companions. Who are our true companions? I think I'll skip this. I'll quickly go through. We have many people say spouse, kids, friends, relatives, shadow, mind, and these are the answers actually I used to get in my previous presentations. So these are the answers I used to get. But other than all this, actually, spending hours with ourselves. That is more important. That is a true companion. So then you can express more. And I'm not saying the other entities are not important, but they can help you to some extent. But in our journey, maybe 60 years, 80 years, or maybe 100 years, whatever it may be. But in our journey, when you come in, you didn't come with anyone else. And then when you are leaving, then the self, actually, basically, that is what the soul we say. But yeah, we are our self image. That's what actually carries to, if you believe in rebirth and all. And that is what actually are going carrying to the next birth, if we have any. So and that self, that should be actually satisfied, self-satisfied situation. If you leave the body, I think you need not come back again to this life and birth cycle. So that is what actually our Puranas and Itihasas, whatever they say that. So now coming to what we need to do. Use words like great, wonderful, excellent. This is what you need to say whenever it's possible. Like, many people say like half-heartedly, like, how are you? They say, not bad. That is also not correct. That means actually you are saying that negative word bad, right? Similarly, this is actually very good exercise. I mean, if you want to practice, don't use any negative words while talking to others. It's really hard. I know actually we implemented that, like, in Bal Vikas class one time, and then the kids said like it's really amazing. They couldn't actually resist. They always tell the negative words. Of course, in school and all, it's really difficult for them. But we can actually practice it. One of our teachers, actually Bal Vikas teachers, he actually practiced it and said like it's very difficult, but after starting this, whenever I tell a negative word, immediately something is popping up saying like you are using negative word, and then he stopped, slowly stopped using negative words. And then after 5-6 years, actually, when I went to Bal Vikas, he again recollected that particular thing and said like, oh, that is very great thing. So there's so many exercises like this, like, how to get rid of anger and all these. There's so many things. But slowly, if you are in that group, I might send a couple of, um, things how you can get rid of anger, get rid of stress and all these things. There's some meditation techniques. Maybe I think we better have another session or something. Then I think we can learn more about it. And then never use words that downs energy. Many times, always we say negative things, which actually doesn't help. Basically, it drains our energy. So we better stop using that kind of words. And then the other one, like wish everyone we come across, say hello, good morning, even though it's a strange feeling in the beginning, there won't be any stranger afterwards. So this is what actually happened in my hospital visits recently, and many other places wherever I go. I usually say hello, and actually, in my workplaces, sometimes I used to see some people, they are not very interested to talk to some particular kind of people. So they used to, go away from that path. When they're coming towards us, they just take a different direction and go, or sometimes they turn their face and go. That's what used to happen. But, in one place, I literally did this. Like I used to say good morning. Every time I say good morning or whatever, I used to wish him all the time whenever he comes across. I think after 3 months or so, he started responding back saying, he used to say again, if I say good morning, he used to say, thank you, good morning. So that change might happen. We never know, but we should not give up. That's what I believe in. And then finally, this is what we say God many times. God means, it's what do you call it? It's some form of energy. Basically, we name it God, and then we give some shapes and some features and all that. But a difference between God and human is this: God gives, and forgives, and human gets, and forgets. That is the only difference. So never forget a person who might have helped him. He might have given a small a peanut or something like that, but you should not forget that. You should remember And similarly, while taking, I think we are very much interested, like, if the other person gives, we always try to take it. But while giving, I think we'll get more happiness. So that is what gives. God is always happy. That's what we say. Like, he's having lots of, we say, like, gunas, very, very nice ones. Like, he's happy all the time. He's actually beautiful. He's, like, visible sometimes, not visible. He's actually always energetic. So many things we say, right? All of them actually, we can incorporate to a human also if he follows that particular technique. And then other thing, like, whatever we do, we should not, like, our Puranas and Itihasas, they say, like, if you do something with your right hand, your left hand also should not know that. That is what our ancestors used to say. Sometimes that is correct, but nowadays I think for inspiring others, sometimes we need to tell, like, what exactly we are doing, and sometimes that helps. But as long as we should not, build our ego on that. So that is what is my today's presentation. I think if you have any questions, we can continue for a few more minutes. Otherwise, we can conclude. I stop this presentation. So you want to share anything? Okay, I think everyone is silent. Okay, at least tell, shall I conclude? Come on, someone unmute and I can.
Yeah, this is very useful and good. Thank you for the presentation. I
Yeah.
think little more focus on how to implement like practical problems, what we are getting, and how to manage these things. Maybe some exercises required. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to send it in that group. So then, yeah, there are some techniques, like for anger. We used to have a sheet, one page, and I make it threefold, brochure, where I print Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that, all 7 days of the week. And then I start for anger and for using the negative words. These things actually we can use that. Basically, in the morning when you get up on Sunday, or you can choose any particular day, and then start from there for 1 week cycle. So I can send that sheet also if you want. You can print it out. There's nothing much. Basically, I noted on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We used to give it in Balvikas students. In Balvikas, the students used to practice it for 2-3 weeks, and after that, they came back with a feedback saying, they're not getting any bad words. And then for anger, basically they said, like, they're not getting angry anymore. Whenever they feel like getting angry, they're getting smile. So that is one thing. So you can use the same sheet, and if you get angry, you need to mark 1 line, and then if you get second time, you get second line, third line, fourth line. After 4, you can cross that, like for statistics, how we use it. So like that, you can mark down in the whole day, and before going to sleep, you count down how many times you got angry on that day. And then if you have, say, 46 times in that particular day, you may get angry again. Like, how come I got 46 times? And then you mark another one, 47, and round it off, and then go to sleep. Next day morning, when you wake up, again start a fresh one, Tuesday or next day, basically. and again start doing the same thing. And if you do it for 1 week, you can see the difference. I'll tell why. It's basically whenever you are conscious, you never get angry. Whenever you are conscious, you never get angry. They are not coexisting things, like anger and then living in present. You can say living in present or conscious. So when you're conscious, and then you never get into that unconscious state, right? When you're conscious, so naturally you never get angry, because when you think about anger, immediately you get laugh, like why I'm getting angry there. So that is how it works. And similarly, for bad words also, it became so common, like, whenever you use, especially when you watch English movies, and that kind of words comes many times. But I never use those words. Even I don't watch movies also much, but even if I watch, I just ignore that part. So like that. So for how to get rid of that deep anger thing, that is very important. Some people might accumulate that anger for a long time. So the other person is always always have rivalry with them. So you cannot accept anything if they achieve something good. You cannot appreciate them. Always, you don't want to talk to that person. You don't know, you want to keep them away from you. Whenever you see, you get some hatred, and then you get anger on that. So that is very deep anger. So which is not good. So you should get rid of that. So for that, I mean, there are some meditation techniques, and yeah, if anybody wants that kind of techniques, probably I can tell how to do that. But I don't want to tell it in this group as such. Okay. So shall I conclude now? I think there's some message here. What is it? Okay, I'll send it weekly sheets. Yeah, I'll send it weekly sheets as well as the instructions what to do.